In the quest for inner resilience, many wonder, what truly enables us to remain composed in the face of life's challenges? It's not about mere willpower or suppressing emotions, nor about creating an illusion of well-being when turmoil rages within, and certainly not about blind positivity or battling every negative thought. The secret to genuine independence from external factors lies much deeper, in an area often overlooked in the pursuit of ready-made solutions. True transformation begins from within. Have you ever wondered why some people, despite life's vicissitudes, maintain remarkable calm and purpose? They experience crises, losses, periods of uncertainty, yet continue to move forward without losing their balance. Meanwhile, others, even in ordinary situations, seem ready to explode, mired in their own emotions and reactions. So what's the deal? Is it a matter of luck or character traits? Or is there a hidden principle that determines our ability to maintain inner harmony? What distinguishes those who master their inner selves from those who are forced to submit to its whims? A common misconception lies in the belief that reality is something objective, that events happen on their own, and that feelings are an inevitable response to external stimuli. However, this is far from the truth. Every experience passes through the lens of personal perception, shaped by established beliefs and uncontrolled emotions. It's like wearing colored glasses. Regardless of the surrounding reality, the view will always be tinted with a specific hue. And if this filter is distorted by fear, resentment, or guilt, the world around will seem bleak and unfair. But the cause lies not in the bias of fate, but in the limitations of inner vision. The main secret, often unmentioned, is not about avoiding pain or fleeing from difficult emotions, nor about striving for invulnerability in the face of life's adversities. It's about profound changes in worldview, about the transformation that occurs when a person reconsiders the value of every experienced moment. It's a kind of resetting of the inner self, allowing one to see the world in a different light and benefit from any emotional state. Instead of letting emotions drag you down, they can be turned into a powerful tool for personal growth. After all, reality is not something fixed and immutable, but rather how each of us perceives it. And when the realization of this truth comes, when a person learns to manage their perception, they gain the ability to choose their reaction to any life circumstance. It is at this moment that true freedom is born. In the following discussion, we will explore specific methods for achieving this freedom, the experiences of those who have managed to find inner peace, independent of external factors. We will examine the principles that allow us to turn fear into a source of clarity, direct negative emotions into constructive channels, and achieve a state of imperturbable calm despite life's vicissitudes. You are about to learn something that can radically change your life. Only when a person is ready to embark on a courageous journey into the depths of their self and critically analyze established beliefs will they realize that it is not the events themselves, but personal perception and reaction to them that determine mental balance. By mastering the art of transforming experiences, an individual gains unwavering resilience to external influences. Imagine a life freed from the distorting influence of invisible glasses, allowing you to perceive the world without the burden of fears, limiting beliefs, and suppressed emotions. This freedom is not an unattainable utopia or a privilege of the chosen few, but an inherent right, a potential dormant in everyone, awaiting its hour. The human mind is a complex labyrinth where every thought, reaction, and emotion is formed under the influence of deep layers of experience, rarely consciously perceived by the individual. From birth, the process of accumulating experience begins, shaping filters of perception. Humanity perceives the world through the prism of personal filters, formed under the influence of past experiences, accumulated knowledge, and, above all, individual interpretation of life events. Just recall how two people finding themselves in an identical situation can experience completely different feelings and draw opposite conclusions. For example, when faced with criticism, one person may feel crushed, while another will perceive it as a valuable stimulus for self-improvement. In the face of sudden changes, one may succumb to panic and anxiety, while another will see it as an exciting start to a new phase. The key difference lies not in the events themselves, but in how each person interprets them. This thought is not a revelation of modern times. Even in ancient times, sages realized that our perception shapes the reality around us. One of the most prominent thinkers who clearly articulated this concept was Carl Jung, who envisioned the human psyche as a vast territory, much of which is hidden in the depths of the unconscious. According to his theory, the unconscious aspects of our personality powerfully influence our behavior and perception of the world, operating from the shadows. Our deep-seated beliefs, like invisible architects, shape our perception of reality, often remaining beyond conscious awareness. These beliefs act like unseen lenses through which our vision of the world is refracted, giving it certain hues and meanings. For example, a person raised with the belief that the world is hostile will unconsciously seek and find confirmation of this hostility in every aspect of their life. Similarly, a deeply ingrained feeling of unworthiness of love will make one view even the most sincere expressions of tenderness with suspicion or distrust. It's important to understand that these internal filters not only color our perception, but also actively influence what we notice and what remains invisible to us. The most insidious trap is that we tend to mistake these filters for reality itself, forgetting that we see only an interpreted version of the world. The belief this person doesn't value me becomes an unshakable truth when in reality it's just a subjective interpretation dictated by personal fears and insecurities. What seems like an insurmountable obstacle becomes a final verdict when it's just the voice of fear distorting perspective. The process of understanding the world inevitably passes through the prism of each person's personal perception. And here lies the starting point for gaining inner freedom. Awareness. Once one understands that the observed picture of the world is not absolute truth, but only a subjective interpretation, new horizons of opportunity open up. A person gets the chance to doubt their first instinctive reaction and ask, is there another view of the situation? What other interpretations could there be? It is in this gap between reaction and response that the power of awareness lies. By reacting, an individual remains a hostage of automatic behavioral patterns driven by an unconscious autopilot. By responding, they create a moment of pause, a space for conscious choice. This space of awareness, called presence by great spiritual teachers, is the ability to be fully in the present moment, observing one's thoughts and emotions, but not identifying with them completely. It feels as if a part of the personality is able to step back and look at what is happening from the outside. The inner world of a person is a boundless ocean, full of mysteries and unexplored depths. It's important to learn to step away from the hustle and bustle of the external world in order to look deep within oneself and see the processes taking place there, without allowing them to overwhelm us like a turbulent stream. Fortunately, this ability isn't the preserve of the chosen few endowed with a special gift. It's more of a skill available to anyone who is willing to train diligently and pay attention to their inner state. Start small. Simply notice your reactions to what is happening. When you feel that a situation is affecting you, pause and observe what is happening inside you. What thoughts are born in your mind? What sensations arise in the body? What emotions are awakened? It's important not to judge or try to change them, but simply to recognize their presence. Over time, you will find that this simple act of observation begins to transform your relationship with your own inner world. What previously instantly plunged you into a state of confusion and anxiety can now be contemplated with greater equanimity. What once seemed like absolute truth now appears as just one of many possible ways to interpret reality. And so, gradually, step by step, you begin. It is about regaining personal power, about transforming from a helpless leaf carried by the wind of circumstances into a mighty tree whose roots go deep into the ground, allowing it to stand unshakable, even in the epicenter of the storm. The secret is not in establishing control over the external world, but in managing your perception and reactions to what is happening. If this idea resonates, the author encourages you to share your experience, leaving a comment, "Nothing disturbs my peace," and telling about the turning point when you manage to look at a difficult situation from a completely new angle. Perhaps this personal experience will be the inspiring example that helps someone start their own path to transformation. Emotional reactions are compared to rivers that originate in deep and ancient sources. To understand the reasons behind certain reactions, it's necessary to explore the origins of these emotional currents that so often overwhelm, depriving us of the ability to avoid their impact. From the very moment of our emergence, from the first days of life, interacting with the surrounding world, each person begins to form emotional maps in their consciousness, reflecting their lived experiences. A child surrounded by unconditional love and care creates an image of a safe and friendly world in their inner world where they are always welcome. At the same time, a child who has faced rejection or inconsistent treatment forms a different map where distrust and constant readiness for danger become necessary conditions for survival. These primary emotional maps are not the result of conscious choice. They arise as adaptive reactions to the environment. Over time, these patterns of thinking and behavior take root, becoming automatic reactions. Any new experience tends to be interpreted through the lens of the past. If, in the past, showing vulnerability led to pain, a person's emotional system learns to protect them by activating defense mechanisms when situations arise that even remotely resemble the traumatic experience. This does not happen as a result of a conscious decision, but as an instinctive reaction aimed at ensuring safety. It is in this area of the subconscious that lies what the famous psychologist Carl Jung called the shadow, those aspects of personality that a person, in the depths of the human psyche, lie aspects of personality that the individual tries to hide, suppress, or deny because they were once perceived as a source of unbearable pain or non-compliance with generally accepted norms. The paradox of the shadow is that, despite all efforts to conceal it, it finds ways and means of manifesting itself in everyday life, especially in situations where certain circumstances or people touch these painful, unhealed wounds. This is precisely why certain words or actions of others can have such a profound impact on a person's emotional state. When someone utters a phrase that resonates with inner experiences and insecurities, the individual's reaction is due not only to the present moment, but also to a whole range of emotional memories that are activated at that very moment. It feels as if these words touch a string that begins to vibrate in unison with all the accumulated negative experience. It is worth pondering why a casual remark about professional activities can provoke a powerful emotional storm in one person, while a similar observation has virtually no effect on another. The crux of the problem lies not in the comment itself, but in what internal experiences it touches. It probably activates deeply rooted complexes and fears associated with self-esteem and a sense of competence. The fear of not being good enough can erase from memory the moments when a person felt unfairly judged. The strongest emotions often serve as signals that point to those aspects of personality that require recognition and healing. Uncontrollable anger may indicate repeated violations of personal boundaries. Paralyzing fear can expose limiting beliefs about a person's ability to cope with life's difficulties. Deep sadness can point to attachments or expectations that need to be released. Instead of perceiving these emotions as enemies to be fought or weaknesses to be overcome, it is advisable to treat them as messengers carrying valuable information about a person's inner world. When an intense emotion arises, instead of suppressing or submitting to it, it is recommended to pause and ask yourself questions. What does this emotion want to show me about myself? What unmet need does it express? Awakening dormant beliefs often occurs through compassionate self-awareness, which becomes the first step on the path to emotional freedom. When we consciously acknowledge our emotions, they lose their subconscious power over us. Brought to light, it can no longer hide in the shadows and secretly influence our behavior. The key is to understand that this process does not involve self-flagellation for emotional reactions. Patterns of behavior formed in childhood and emotional wounds accumulated over the years are not the result of conscious choice. However, in the present, we have the opportunity to choose our attitude towards these aspects of ourselves. Every time external circumstances or people have a strong impact on us, This can be seen as an invitation to deeper self-knowledge. Instead of solely focusing on external stimuli, it's worth turning your gaze inward and asking yourself, what part of me is being activated right now? This simple question can radically alter our perception of events, transforming a potential external threat into a valuable opportunity for self-analysis and personal growth. This is the liberating power of truth. When a person realizes that their emotional responses are not merely automatic reactions to external stimuli, but rather a reflection of their rich inner world, they begin to reclaim lost control over their life. They cease to feel like a puppet in the hands of others' words and actions, transforming into an inquisitive explorer of their own emotional sphere, increasingly skillfully directing its currents with wisdom and grace. Deep within the human being lies a dimension of consciousness that remains unshaken even in the face of the strongest emotional upheavals. It is like the ocean floor preserving tranquility while waves rage on the surface. This inner presence, a silent witness to the experienced, can be called the inner observer. It is the key to gaining emotional freedom. Many spiritual teachers throughout the ages have spoken of this capacity for impartial observation as the very essence. At the very core of human nature lies something fundamental. Carl Jung called it the self, the center of the psyche, towering above all facets of personality while simultaneously uniting them. It is that part of us that can distantly observe our own thoughts and feelings without dissolving into them completely. When a person gains the ability to connect to this inner observer, amazing metamorphoses begin to occur in their life. They cease to be merely the embodiment of their anger, fear, or sadness. They also become the one who observes these emotions from the outside. This subtle yet profound shift in perspective creates space between the external stimulus and the response. It is in this space that true human power lies. Imagine for a moment a situation where a person finds themselves in a difficult situation. For example, when they are unfairly criticized in a meeting. They feel anger rising like a wave in their body, their heart begins to beat rapidly, and their thoughts accelerate. The usual reaction in such a case would be to succumb to this anger, responding to the offender in a state of affect. However, thanks to the practice of the inner observer, the person has an alternative option. Imagine a situation where you are overwhelmed by a wave of anger. Your face is burning, your fists are clenched, and your mind is filled with defensive thoughts. Instead of blindly succumbing to this destructive force or conversely trying to suppress it, try to take a step back and look at the situation from the outside. Realize, I am experiencing anger right now. I feel its physical manifestations and mental constructs. This conscious observation allows you to distance yourself from the emotion. You are no longer its prisoner, completely identified with it. Within you, there remains a part that retains clarity and focus, capable of making a conscious choice. It is in this space between stimulus and reaction that your freedom lies. As the eminent mystic and philosopher Viktor Frankl once noted, between stimulus and our reaction to it, there is a pause. And it is in this pause that our ability to choose how to react is contained. In our reaction lies the opportunity for personal growth and the attainment of true freedom. Developing this ability to observe consciously is not an instantaneous process. It is a kind of spiritual training that requires constant practice. Start small. When you feel an emotion beginning to arise, don't rush to act under its dictation. Instead of instantly merging with your experiences, try to define them. For example, you can say, here it is, fear. I notice that there is disappointment, sadness, present now. This simple process of naming your emotions already creates a slight detachment, giving you the opportunity to look at them from a different angle. Another effective method is to pay attention to the bodily sensations that accompany emotional states. Where exactly in the body is the emotion felt? Maybe it's pressure in the chest, tension in the jaw, or an unpleasant sensation in the stomach. By directing their attention to these physical manifestations, a person naturally takes the position of an observer. They do not try to suppress or control their feelings, but simply record them with gentle curiosity. Over time, there comes an awareness that you can be near any emotion, even the strongest, without losing your inner balance. Even in the epicenter of fear, you can find access to a source of inner peace. Even in moments of sadness, you can feel openness and compassion for your experience. Emotional outbursts are still inherent in human nature, but they no longer control the individual and their actions. A state of mindful presence becomes not just a temporary refuge during times of life's trials, but a reliable basis for making informed and effective decisions. When a person acts based on the position of an internal observer, rather than succumbing to impulsive emotional reactions, their words and actions acquire a deep meaning. They cease to be automatic responses dictated by past experiences and turn into a sincere expression of their true essence in the present moment. The internal observer endows the ability to see the world beyond one's own prejudices and subjective filters of perception. In situations where someone's words or actions could cause offense, a person realizes the reaction arising within them, but at the same time is able to see the hidden motives. Perhaps fear or emotional pain is hidden behind the words of another person. It is likely that one can realize that their behavior, like one's own, is a consequence of past experiences and emotional traumas. However, such an understanding does not mean that you should accept the destructive behavior of others, responding to it with conscious clarity rather than an impulsive reaction. Continuous practice of self-observation will gradually lead to a sense of inner freedom. Even when emotional upheavals are inevitable, a person ceases to be part of this storm, turning into an endless sky capable of containing it. Emotions like fleeting clouds come and go, but the deep essence remains spacious and calm, like the azure sky above the clouds. From this state of inner clarity comes the realization that nothing and no one has the power to disturb inner peace, since a reliable anchor has been found in what lies beyond any turmoil. Emotions, often referred to as negative, fear, anger, sadness, shame, guilt, cause the greatest resistance. From early childhood, many learn that these emotions are undesirable, that they must be restrained, overcome, or worse, suppressed. Don't cry, don't be afraid, don't. These phrases become a familiar background to growing up. From an early age, many of us face instructions that suppress the expression of feelings, which forms a subconscious rejection of an important component of human nature. It is often overlooked that emotions are not adversaries, but rather messengers, conveying valuable information and performing key evolutionary tasks that have ensured the survival and development of humanity for centuries. Fear serves as a signal of potential threats. Anger indicates a violation of personal boundaries, and sadness helps to cope with losses and break free from outdated connections. Any emotion, even one that causes discomfort, has its own purpose and hidden wisdom. The problem is not in the emotions themselves, but in how we interact with them. Fighting one's own feelings, condemning them as positive or negative, fully identifying with them, or trying to suppress them only intensifies suffering. A wise ancient proverb says, "Pain is the lot of humanity, but suffering is our personal choice." Negative emotions are an integral part of life's journey, but the torments that we invent for ourselves can be dissolved in the flow of being. How to change your attitude to these uninvited guests? The first step on this path is radical acceptance. This does not mean that you need to spinelessly bow to circumstances or approve of what causes harm. It is about recognizing the reality of what is happening in your inner world at this particular moment, without any struggle or resistance. It is like warmly opening the door to an unexpected guest, not because you like them, but because you realize that resisting their presence will only increase the discomfort. Emotion itself can become a source of strength. When you are overwhelmed by a wave of strong feelings, try using this approach. Instead of desperately trying to change or get rid of them, allow yourself to feel them in their fullness. Say to yourself, "I accept this fear. I allow it to be here, in my heart. I breathe with it." This position of openness and acceptance already begins to transform your experience of emotion. It will not work a miracle and will not make it disappear instantly, but it will change your attitude towards it in such a way that its power over you will weaken significantly. Another effective method of self-knowledge lies in the ability to decipher the messages hidden in emotional experiences. Each emotional state seeks to convey some important information to a person. For example, fear may signal a need for security or the need for more thorough preparation. Anger, in turn, may indicate a violation of a value that is of particular importance to a person. Sadness can help to survive the loss and prepare the ground for new beginnings. By mastering the art of listening to these inner signals, one gains the ability to transform complex emotions from tormentors into valuable mentors. Carl Jung astutely observed that what we reject or suppress does not disappear without a trace, but merely recedes into the shadow of the unconscious, where it continues to influence our lives uncontrollably. Conversely, when we bring these hidden energies into the light of consciousness, we gain the opportunity to integrate and transform them, turning what seemed to be our weakness into a source of strength and wisdom. Consider, for example, fear. Instead of perceiving it as a manifestation of cowardice or weakness, one can learn to see it as an indicator of stepping outside one's comfort zone and opening up new horizons. Instead of allowing fear to paralyze the will, one can express gratitude for the warning and ask oneself, what reasonable step can I take to heed this caution, but without allowing myself to stagnate in inaction? Consciously experiencing anger can transform a destructive force into an energy of clarity and determination. Instead of impulsive actions fueled by anger, it is recommended to feel its physical manifestation, recognize its signal about violated boundaries or injustice, and then direct this energy towards constructive actions that eliminate the root cause of the problem. Sadness, if allowed to flow freely, becomes a natural process of cleansing and emotional renewal. In a society where this emotion is often avoided, fully embracing sadness can become an act of self-care and authenticity. Emotional alchemy, the art of consciously transforming the energy of emotions, represents a practical method for working with complex feelings. The process begins with identifying and naming the emotion being experienced. Then, it is necessary to determine its location in the body and observe its physical and energetic manifestations. Next, one should breathe with this sensation, allowing conscious breathing to gradually envelop and unfold it. In conclusion, it is important to ask oneself, what quality or inner resource do I need at this moment? This could be courage, compassion, clarity, or confidence. By invoking this quality, one allows the energy of the complex emotion to transform into something that nourishes and strengthens them. This practice is not a way to instantly get rid of unpleasant feelings, but rather a path to developing wiser and more compassionate relationships with the full spectrum of emotional experience. Over time, it is discovered that even the strongest and most complex emotions can serve as portals to greater presence, understanding, and inner freedom. It is important to remember that it is not the emotions themselves that determine well-being, but the attitude towards them. By ceasing the struggle with one's emotional experience and learning to accept it with mindful attention, one discovers that nothing they feel is capable of crushing them. Emotional waves will continue to roll in, which is an integral part of human nature, but one will learn to swim even on the most powerful of them, maintaining balance and grace. At the heart of human existence lies a powerful connection that often subtly governs actions and beliefs. The desire for external approval. This desire is rooted in the social nature of humans. For millennia, people evolved in close-knit communities where recognition from the group was a matter of life and death. Rejection by the tribe in ancient times could lead to demise. In the modern world, where physical survival does not directly depend on the approval of others, the human brain has retained this ancient program. The need for recognition, the desire to be noticed, valued, and accepted by society remains a powerful stimulus that often unconsciously influences behavior. It is worth considering how often everyday decisions, even the most insignificant, are shaped by the opinions of others. The choice of clothing, the beliefs expressed, life goals, and even behavior in the absence of prying eyes, all of this can be dictated by the pursuit of approval. How often does one have to hide their true beliefs for fear of being rejected? How often does a person try to meet expectations that contradict their authentic self? Dependence on external evaluation costs humanity dearly. Every concession to one's own truth for the sake of conforming to social expectations, every suppression of individuality for the sake of acceptance, every permission for someone else's opinion to determine one's own worth. This is a transfer of power over the inner world to external forces, incapable of bringing true satisfaction. Abandoning authenticity for social approval breeds internal conflict, requiring resolution and manifesting as anxiety, depression, or a vague feeling of dissatisfaction with life. This is self-betrayal when a person sacrifices their true essence to public recognition. Releasing oneself from this dependency is a process that requires honest recognition of its deep roots. It's impossible to abandon it instantly. It's a gradual path back to one's own inner strength. The first step is developing a conscious attitude toward your values and truths. It's necessary to determine what's truly important to you, regardless of externally imposed ideas, what fills your life with meaning and integrity, irrespective of applause or external recognition. In the process of realizing personal values, the next logical step is cultivating internal self-esteem. This stage involves being able to notice and appreciate your own efforts, positive qualities, and successes without waiting for recognition or approval from others. It's about forming a consistent habit of being both an attentive observer, a source of motivation, and support for yourself. An equally important aspect on the path to independence from others' opinions is establishing healthy boundaries. As you deepen your awareness of your need for external validation, you begin to notice situations where you're willing to compromise your own well-being or principles to gain approval. In such cases, the ability to set clear boundaries, say no when necessary, clearly express your needs, and distance yourself from relationships that negatively impact your self-esteem becomes a powerful expression of self-respect. It's important to understand that freeing yourself from dependence on external validation doesn't mean losing interest in the opinions and feelings of others, rejecting social connections, or showing indifference. On the contrary, when the need for others' approval ceases to be the defining factor in your self-perception, you can build relationships based on sincerity and mutual generosity. Such connections become more authentic, deeper, and more fulfilling. The true power of gaining inner freedom manifests in discovering an unshakable source of stability within yourself when you stop depending on the changing judgments of others. Let criticism rain down, failures pursue you, and misunderstanding from others become commonplace. None of this can shake your inner harmony anymore. You find support in something more solid than fleeting external approval, in your own deep truth. True transformation doesn't happen in a moment of sudden enlightenment, but through relentless and conscious practice. Just as muscles strengthen from regular exercise, emotional resilience, which allows you to maintain inner balance despite external circumstances, develops through daily exercises that gradually change your interaction with life. Each new day provides a wonderful opportunity to set the tone for further experiences. Take a few minutes before diving into the whirlwind of affairs and worries to reconnect with your inner self. This doesn't require complex meditations or intricate rituals. Simply sit in silence, breathe consciously, and ask yourself, who do I want to be today? How do I intend to relate to what life brings me? This conscious intention, set at the beginning of the day, serves as an anchor, helping you return to your center when emotional storms threaten to knock you off course. Throughout the day, incorporate what can be called fleeting but significant moments of mindfulness into your life. These are short but effective breaks when you stop acting mechanically and return to fully perceiving the present moment. Use ordinary actions as starting points for these pauses. Every time you pick up a glass of water, cross a doorway, or hear a phone ring, take a conscious breath, feel the support beneath your feet, and restore your connection with your inner self. These small moments, repeated regularly, gradually form a state of presence that becomes more accessible in difficult times. When you encounter situations that usually throw you off balance, practice what the ancient Stoics called premeditation of evils. This isn't about instilling pessimism, but about preparing for possible difficulties in advance. Before a difficult meeting or a tense conversation, take the time to imagine how you'll remain calm and composed, even if everything doesn't go according to plan. Visualize the feeling of confidence in your inner worth, regardless of how others perceive or react to you. At the end of a busy day, set aside a few precious minutes for conscious reflection. Mentally revisit those moments when you managed to maintain inner balance and those situations when you succumbed to the power of automatic reactions. It's important to conduct this analysis without the slightest judgment, with the compassionate curiosity of an observer striving for knowledge, not criticism. Let one ask themselves, what lessons can I learn from this experience? What could I change in my actions tomorrow? This honest and deep reflection, if practiced regularly, can significantly accelerate personal growth. It's worth remembering that the goal is not to achieve flawlessness. It's not about getting rid of fear, anger, or pain forever. The point is to develop a more conscious and compassionate relationship with the entire spectrum of experiences, including the most challenging and unpleasant ones. Each time a person regains their inner balance after losing it, they strengthen their ability to do so faster and more effectively in the future. Each time they choose a conscious response instead of an automatic reaction, they reclaim their power and control over the situation. Like any valuable practice, developing emotional resilience requires patience and perseverance. There will be days when a person feels absolutely balanced and collected, and others when it seems like they have reverted to old, familiar patterns of behavior. It's important to understand that this is also part of the journey. The main thing is not the perfection of the process, but the commitment to it. With each day of consistent practice, a person creates new neural connections, forming new habits of perception and response that gradually displace old reactive patterns. They are literally reconfiguring how their brain and their entire being process life experiences, and one day, perhaps without noticing the exact moment of change, they will find that what used to throw them off balance now barely causes a light ripple on the surface of their inner world. Together, we have traveled a rich path of knowledge, delving into the depths of the internal scenarios that shape our worldview. From realizing how our personal filters distort reality to understanding the origins of our emotional responses, each stage of this journey has been filled with discoveries. We have diligently cultivated an inner observer capable of dispassionately analyzing what is happening, transformed our interaction with complex emotions, learned to free ourselves from dependence on external evaluation, and introduced daily practices into our lives that strengthen our emotional resilience. Each step of this path has brought us closer to that inner freedom that does not depend on external circumstances, but is born from a new, more conscious attitude towards our own experience. True freedom, as has become clear, does not lie in seeking to control the surrounding world. It is not about avoiding difficult situations or unpleasant people, and it is certainly not about suppressing negative emotions or maintaining a showy optimism. Genuine inner freedom is something much deeper and more radical. It is the ability to be fully present in the moment, accepting everything that arises without allowing anything to disturb inner peace. This freedom is available to everyone right now. There is no need to look for it in the future or in some lofty spiritual states. It is here, in the simple but profound ability to observe one's experience without becoming emotionally involved in it. It manifests in every conscious breath, in every moment when we choose a wise response instead of a habitual reaction, in every return to our center after being distracted from it. Existence will continue to unfold according to its laws, and humanity will continue to be guided by established models of behavior and frameworks of perception. Difficulties and challenges will inevitably arise on the path of life. However, now that it has become clear that external factors should not affect inner balance, the situation changes. The key to understanding, which has been pointed out by outstanding thinkers and spiritual leaders for centuries, has been discovered. Inner peace is not an acquisition from the outside, but an inherent property of the deep I, available at any moment, regardless of external circumstances. It is important to realize that spiritual growth is not a straight line. There may be periods of absolute harmony when a person is able to overcome any obstacles with dignity and clarity, but there are also likely to be moments when old habits and automatic reactions take over, creating a feeling of returning to a previous state. This is also an integral part of the process of self-discovery. Striving for perfection is not the main goal. It is much more important to consciously return to one's center, to one's true nature, to the ability to choose one's reaction to life events. As Carl Jung wisely noted, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Diving into the depths of the unconscious, illuminating the innermost corners of the soul with the light of unconditional love and attention, this is perhaps the most fateful mission facing humanity. Gaining inner strength and transforming from will-less puppets into conscious creators of our own reality entails radical changes. Not only does one's personal life trajectory shift, but also the perception of others and the attitude towards the world as a whole. Imagine for a moment a society where more and more people awaken to this truth, where humanity is freed from the shackles of unconscious patterns that generate countless sufferings. What horizons will open up for our species if everyone takes responsibility for their inner world, ceasing to project their own fears, complexes, and emotional wounds onto others? This is true transformation, not only individual, but also collective. It begins here and now, with a conscious intention to reclaim lost power, to take one's rightful place in the center of the universe, and to cultivate wise and compassionate relationships with everything around us. The invitation to this brave new world is open to everyone. The time to act is now. The capacity for transformation has been dormant within us since time immemorial. Are you ready to declare your freedom, granted to you by birthright? Are you ready to gradually grasp the truth that from now on, nothing and no one has power over you? Each person has their own unique life path stretching before them, and although no one can walk it for them, it is important to remember that they are not alone in their pursuit. Throughout human history, millions of people have walked the path of self-discovery and spiritual awakening. Their experiences have left indelible marks, serving as a guide for those who follow in their footsteps. The wise teachings of these pioneers inspire, and their examples prove that liberation from the shackles of ignorance and limitations is entirely achievable. The only thing required of each seeker is unwavering devotion to their path, focused attention on the present moment, and a sincere desire to understand the true nature of their self, free from all the frameworks and beliefs that have hitherto constrained their consciousness. The pursuit of self-knowledge is a journey that requires courage and persistence, but the reward for it is the attainment of inner freedom and harmony.